The year is 1806, a pivotal moment in history. Napoleon's ambitions cast a long shadow across Europe, reshaping the continent's political landscape. The British, ever wary of threats to their maritime trade routes, made a decisive move to secure their interests. They seized the Cape Colony from the Dutch, recognizing it as a strategic prize in the control of the vital sea lanes around the southern tip of Africa. The Cape, with its sheltered harbor at Cape Town, became a crucial supply station for British ships journeying to India and the Far East, ensuring their naval dominance. This wasn't Britain's first attempt at controlling the Cape, a region of immense strategic value. They had briefly held it during the French Revolutionary Wars, a period marked by intense global conflict. But this time, the strategic importance of the Cape in the context of global power struggles cemented its fate as a British possession, altering the course of history. The acquisition of the Cape marked the beginning of a long and complex relationship between Britain and the diverse peoples of southern Africa, a relationship that would shape the region for centuries. The indigenous population of the Cape consisted of various Bantu-speaking groups, primarily the Xhosa people, who had their own rich cultural heritage. The Dutch settlers, who had arrived in the mid-17th century, had established farms and settlements, gradually expanding their territory and coming into contact and conflict with the Xhosa, leading to a series of frontier wars. The British inherited this volatile frontier situation, adding another layer of complexity to the region's dynamics. The arrival of the British introduced a new dynamic to the region, bringing with them new policies and practices. They brought with them their own set of imperial ambitions, administrative systems, and cultural norms, which would have a profound impact on the social, political, and economic landscape of southern Africa, reshaping it in their image. The story of British colonialism in South Africa is a complex tapestry woven from threads of conquest, migration, economic exploitation, and social engineering, each thread contributing to the intricate history of the region. The early years of British rule at the Cape were marked by a series of reforms aimed at solidifying their control and, in their view, improving the colony. These reforms were multifaceted, touching upon various aspects of governance, society, and economy. Land policies were implemented, often displacing indigenous communities. These policies favored European settlers, leading to significant upheaval and loss of land for the native populations. The British sought to establish a system of governance based on British legal principles. This included the introduction of new laws and administrative structures that were unfamiliar to the local inhabitants. One of the most significant reforms was the abolition of slavery in 1834. This monumental change was part of a broader movement within the British Empire to end the practice of slavery. While lauded as a humanitarian act, it had complex and far-reaching consequences. The immediate aftermath saw a mix of jubilation and uncertainty among the freed slaves and the colonists. The emancipation of slaves disrupted the existing social and economic order. Many former slaves struggled to find their place in the new system, while the economy had to adjust to the loss of a significant labor force. It also led to resentment among some colonists who felt that their livelihoods were threatened. The economic adjustments required were significant, and not all colonists were willing to adapt. However, the abolition of slavery also laid the groundwork for the development of a free labor market, albeit one still marked by racial inequalities. The transition was slow and fraught with challenges. This period also saw the arrival of missionaries who played a dual role. They were both agents of change and, at times, protectors of indigenous rights. They aimed to convert the indigenous population to Christianity, while also advocating sometimes for their rights and welfare. Their presence added another layer of complexity to the colonial dynamics. The missionaries' relationship with colonial authorities was often fraught with tension as they grappled with the moral implications of British policies. These tensions highlighted the conflicting interests within the colony. The British administration also undertook infrastructure projects, such as building roads and harbors, to facilitate trade and communication within the colony. These projects were crucial for integrating the Cape into the global economy. The introduction of new crops and farming techniques aimed to boost agricultural productivity. These agricultural reforms were intended to make the colony more self-sufficient and profitable. These reforms, while intended to modernize the Cape and integrate it into the British Empire, also sowed the seeds of future conflicts by exacerbating tensions between different population groups. The legacy of these changes would be felt for generations. The eastern frontier of the Cape Colony was a region of constant tension and conflict, a place where cultures and ambitions collided. The Xhosa people, pastoralists with their own deep-rooted claims to the land, resisted the westward expansion of British settlers who were encroaching on their territory. This clash of interests ignited a series of wars known as the Xhosa Wars, which raged intermittently for much of the 19th century, leaving a trail of destruction and sorrow. The Xhosa Wars were brutal and devastating for both sides, with countless lives lost and communities shattered. The British Army, with its superior firepower and advanced weaponry, often inflicted heavy casualties on the Xhosa forces. The Xhosa, skilled warriors who employed guerrilla tactics, fought tenaciously to defend their lands and way of life, showing remarkable resilience. These wars were characterized by atrocities committed on both sides, leaving a legacy of bitterness and mistrust that would linger for years. The Xhosa Wars also highlighted the complexities and moral ambiguities of colonialism, where the lines between right and wrong were often blurred. The British saw themselves as bringing civilization and progress to the region, yet their actions often involved violence, dispossession, and cultural disruption, contradicting their stated ideals. The Xhosa, on the other hand, were fighting for their very survival, defending their land, their customs, and their right to exist as a people with their own identity. The Xhosa Wars had a profound impact on the demographics and social fabric of the Eastern Cape, altering the region forever. They led to large-scale displacement of Xhosa communities and the consolidation of British control over fertile farmland, changing the landscape both physically and culturally. The wars also fueled a sense of resentment and resistance among the Xhosa that would continue to simmer for generations, influencing future struggles and shaping the region's history. The 1830s witnessed a pivotal event in South African history, the Great Trek. Thousands of Boers, as the descendants of the original Dutch settlers were known, decided to leave the Cape Colony. They were driven by a number of factors, including resentment towards British rule, particularly the abolition of slavery, and a desire for greater independence and control over their lives. They also sought to escape what they perceived as the increasingly crowded and restrictive environment of the Cape. The Voortrekkers, as those who participated in the Great Trek were called, loaded their belongings onto ox-drawn wagons and set off into the interior. They faced incredible hardships as they journeyed across vast distances, encountering hostile tribes and challenging terrain. The Great Trek became a defining moment in Boer history, forging a sense of shared identity and a narrative of hardship, resilience, and self-reliance. The Voortrekkers eventually established their own independent republics, the Orange Free State and the South African Republic, also known as the Transvaal, beyond the borders of the Cape Colony. These republics were founded on principles of Boer self-governance and a rejection of British interference. The establishment of the Boer republics marked a new chapter in the relationship between the British and the Boers, one characterized by uneasy coexistence and simmering tensions. Like and subscribe to Emgotvhistory Warfare for more stories.